Germanic word meaning beach, and it's actually because the Thames used to come right up to the area where the Strand is, so it used to be a lot wider than it is now. I'm going to just give you 4 or 5 minutes on the history and background to why the station was built, and then we'll be moving on downstairs. So, if I can take you back to the latter part of the 19th century, Britain at the time, of course, had a huge empire. London was its capital, growing immensely, and an immensely wealthy city as well. Population of the city grew from about 2.3 million in 1851 to double that, in fact more than double that, 5.5 million in only 40 years by 1891. And by 1901, another million had been added to 6.5 million. So, as you can imagine, there's a huge pressure on the capital's transport system. First tube, or underground, was built a Metropolitan line from Edgware to Farringdon in 1863. The tube railways came along later at the very end of the century, with the Central Line, the Piccadilly Line and the Northern Line all being built around about that time. The Great Northern Railway, which was a main line railway, ran its trains into King's Cross, had great capacity problems on its suburban services, and thought it would be a good idea to have its own tube line running from Wood Green through Finchley Park and down here to the Strand. Consequently, they put together a plan, put it before the relevant authorities. Unfortunately, the London County Council didn't like it, and they had planning issues and were unable to progress as quickly as they liked. During this same period, there was an American entrepreneur, a fellow called Charles Yerkes, who was probably one of the original cowboy businessmen. He was a bit of a shark, but nonetheless a huge driving force in pulling together London's underground. He formed the Underground Electric Railway Limited, I think, or Electric Railway Group, and pulled together the central, central, northern and Piccadilly lines into one company. He also approached the Great Northern and said, do you fancy doing a deal with your line? The Great Northern, having got fed up with problems with the London County Council, said yes. As a consequence, the Great Northern and Strand line was merged with the Brompton and Piccadilly Circus Railway to form the Piccadilly line that you see today. This meant that the part of the line that came down was planned to come from Strand, ended up as a branch. It was still built, but even at the time it was built, which was around about 1905, there were plans to take it through to Temple on the district line or even on further to Waterloo. However, issues with the local landowner, the Duke of Norfolk, meant that that didn't come to pass, so there were many subsequent schemes to extend it. Because it was intended that first to be a terminus and then part of a main line tube, if you like, the station was built to large dimensions, but very soon became effectively a white elephant on a branch line and very low usage. The theatre area that it was supposed to serve effectively shut down and moved further west in the before the First World War. And although the station opened on the site of the Strand Theatre in 1907, 30th of November 1907, its usage was very low right from the start. It had very poor ridership figures, and as has already been hinted, it meant that not all of the station was ever open right from the start. We'll actually see 3 areas of the station. One that was used right through until 1994 when it shut, areas that were in use up until 1917 when it was to a large extent closed down, and then parts that were never opened despite having been built. The service then reduced very quickly, having started off as a 4-minute shuttle from Holborn in 1907 at opening. By 1917, the Sunday service was stopped. In 1922, 1958, the Monday to Friday service was cut right back to just peak hours, and the Saturday service ended in 1962. So for the last period through to its closure, there was only Monday to Friday peak hours, and it was a 9-minute service, 9-minute frequency. So the service tailed off a lot very quickly. It was called the Strand originally, as we've already talked about. It was renamed Aldwych in 1915 when the then Charing Cross underground station was renamed Strand. So to avoid confusion, this station was renamed Aldwych from Strand. However, there is now no Strand station because in 1979, what had become Strand Station was renamed Charing Cross. When what had previously been the Charing Cross station on the district line was renamed Embankment. So I hope you're all grip on that, all right, but there's no Strand Station now, even though the name was taken away from the station. It was, there are a couple of original features still visible here in this area that we're in, so I'll just quickly take you through those before we maybe move on. First of all, you're stood on one of the original features. It's a granitic terrazzo flooring, I'm reliably informed, and it's the only remaining example of it in certainly London Transport premises and London Underground premises. Everywhere else it's been replaced. The original booking office there dates back to 1907, as was also the signage that you would have come past walking through there. This booking office is actually only from 1988. It may look quite old, but actually it's a really good replica that was built when it's necessary to put in the ticket barrier gate barrier, should I say. The ladies, for those of you who can go in there, also have some original 1905 features, so that's worth a view. And then the lifts also date right, as you see them, there are some original features, particularly these carving both grills above the dating back to in 1907. So, as I said, the original ticket office was there, and after 1988 was there. That one there actually shut in 1922. Again, it's a staff saving or cost saving exercise. And the lift man, was always a man in those days, had a big ticket machine and counter in the lift, which you'll be able to see later when we come back up. But from 1922 to 1988, tickets were issued in the lifts by the lift man. So I think that's probably all I have to say. And indeed, it's probably time to move downstairs now, but we will, when we come back up, have a couple of minutes to search around.
Lovely, ladies and gents, if you follow me, again, single file down the stairs, please, and you can hold on to the handrail as we go. We're going to head straight down so we get as much time as possible downstairs.
What are you doing? I want to sign that pipe. We did Covent Garden the other week.
Just down there. So the picture's moving, have a quick look here, and then I'd like to move down to Graham when you have a chance to look. There will be a chance to take pictures of this area if you want to. So, we've got a few boxes. Let's have a look here, and then you'd like to move down that end as you come on so we get all better together. Okay, have a quick look. So have a quick look here, any quick pictures, and then Graham will be down that end. Thank you. Look at this end and then move down to where Graham will tell you about this area. Take pictures. grab the top of you down again.
Would you like to come this way, and we'll just quickly give you a resume of the lift shafts.